Yeah, I'm ready.
We are back on the Rational Boomer podcast. Hopefully, your day is going well. By the time you hear this, it's Friday. We're recording Thursday night. And this is something a lot of you have been waiting for. You've been asking me questions, and sometimes I could answer you, and sometimes I can't. But we have Old Soul back on the show for a while. Now, it's been a long while since you've been on the show, which
Yeah.
is, a disappointment to a lot of people who listen. I told you before. I my wife Cindy said, "What's Old Soul been doing?" I go, "I haven't heard from her in a long time." And she goes, "Is she mad at you?" And I go, "I don't think so. I haven't done anything that I know of, unless I said some shit on the podcast that pissed her off." So I was thankful when we finally got in contact to let me know that you weren't pissed off at me. You were just busy.
Yeah, it was a actually for this last one when I left, I had to do like a leave of absence from work because I knew I wasn't going to be able to like work with my laptop. And so I was like contacting people when I can. And so my brother, he was like, "Did you tell Boomer before you were leaving?" He was like, "Because it's been a couple people asked about you." And I was like, "Oh, it was last minute. I didn't like text everybody like off the top of my head, I missed a couple of people." And he was like, "Well, I talked to him. I'm gonna let him know." And so I was like, "Okay, yeah, go ahead." But it was we had to be careful.
That's the
Very-
interesting thing. I've never met your brother, but we text a lot,
yeah.
going back and forth. One time he said to me, "She's going doing this. I don't like that. Well, can you talk to her?" I go, "Like she's gonna fucking listen to me? I can talk to her, but she's gonna do what she's gonna do."
Yeah.
So you have to deal with it. So you did a number of things. You spent some time here in Minnesota, in my home state.
Yeah. There was I don't know, well, you know your city better than I do, but there's certain areas that ICE won't go to.
Really?
Um
North
yeah.
Minneapolis?
There's West, I want to say West Broadway and Lindale.
That's North
Um,
Minneapolis. Yeah, yeah.
and then
You
there's I believe like Hawthorne, like area, Hawthorne neighborhood.
yeah, that's a
We weren't
school,
allowed to,
Hawthorne.
yeah. So like in that area, they don't go there. Um,
Well, the reason they don't go there is because it's largely a black area. There is some gang issues. And if you go there, you're going to get people fighting back there, like every city has. I remember when my son was little, he and his little white buddies in the suburbs are doing those rap things and trying to be rap stars and stuff. And I
yeah.
said, I tell you what, I'll take you 12-year-olds up to Broadway and Penn and drop you off and see how long you last up there.
Oh, so
These
you know
little
that area.
No, but they wouldn't go up there. Huh? Yeah, they go to the soft targets, the suburbs and shit.
Yeah, I didn't know that you would know that area at all, especially because I'm sitting there and I'm thinking I have my own image in my head of what Minnesota looks like. And then I got there and I was like, yeah, I can see why ICE ain't coming here. They scared.
Yeah, well, no,
However,
I know the area because I grew up in Minneapolis, and there's a radio station at North High School that I worked out of. I didn't go there that much, but I'm familiar with the area. Everybody's familiar with all areas. It's not that big a town.
yeah, they don't go there. So anytime that you're trying to keep people safe, you want to navigate the areas that ICE
So
won't
what
go
were
to.
you doing here? What were you doing here? Fight nice, or what were you doing?
No, I was a glorified babysitter. So
Okay.
you have immigrant children that go to doctor's offices and go to hospitals for a reason. Like one of the kids was extremely asthmatic and he had a surgery, like a lung surgery. And when you have a kid like that, they have to make their doctor's appointments and they have to get their checkups and stuff. However, you have ICE in the parking lot of hospitals and going into different schools and ICE going into their churches. So it's like their churches can't even look out for these children. But somebody has to look out for those children because those children will not survive in a detention center. So when they can't stay in the hospital, so they can go in, get what they need to have done, and then they need people to look after them until they get better and they could leave or flee with their families. Or there's other people there who let immigrant families live with them, kind of like, I guess you would compare it to the attic type of thing. Um, but you can't really put a safe child in a cramped environment like that. So we just looked after the children until they were better to hide or go with their parents. So that's what we
What
did.
you said you were up at Abbott Hospital, and I'm familiar with Abbott Hospital because both my sons were born there, and that's not in a terrible area, but it's not in the best area. Now you were
Yeah.
saying there were ICE agents outside Abbott Hospital.
In the parking lots, sometimes they would just walk through the hospital, looking in rooms, sitting in the parking lot, waiting for immigrant families to come in. But the nurses and the staff there were trying to watch my words carefully here. Looking out for the children is their main priority. I'll put it like that.
What when you say you were a babysitter and you got ICE walking around and you got these immigrant kids, what exactly did you do in this situation to take care of the kids? I mean, did you take them someplace? Were you just there so they couldn't run up on them or what?
We kept them in places that ICE wouldn't go to until they healed enough to flee or be hidden.
Okay.
I'm just watching my words carefully. Sorry.
So, so,
Um,
so, so, so well, yeah, that's one of the reasons you didn't reach out to me here, is you said you had to kind of keep everything on the DL, kind of quiet because of
yeah,
anonymity and all that shit.
ICE will follow nurses, doctors, people going to the hospital, leaving the hospital. They will follow people. They will pull you over and they will take your phone and go through your phone. They will tell you to unlock your phone. If you don't unlock your phone, they will break it. They would like literally take your phone and break it. I don't know what they look for when they go through people's phones, but I have a good idea. But they're not saying, "Hey, we're checking your phone for X, Y, and Z." They're just open your phone, give me your phone or whatever.
Right.
So to avoid that, a lot of people just don't carry phones with them, or they're not doing things on their phone that can be discovered by them.
Well,
And they're
did you have
they're quote unquote investigations. That's the only reason they will give you is we're conducting an investigation.
did you have
They don't
any
give it.
direct contact with ICE while you were in Minnesota? I mean, do you ever been confronted by ICE or you confront them?
I saw them from a distance, and I saw them at checkpoint areas.
I was in a restaurant with my wife, Cindy. You know Cindy, and
Yeah,
another friend of ours who is my daughter-in-law's aunt, and we're sitting in the suburbs, eastern suburbs, kind of
yeah,
Woodbury area, something like that. And we're sitting there, and I'm not paying attention to anything. And my wife and our friend notice six guys uh, that they were going. Those are ICE agents. And I look over. I go, six guys get together. It's a bachelor party or some shit. It can't be ICE. And then I
yeah,
started looking over and I go, that could be fucking ICE. And then I started thinking about the situation where that restaurant was. There was three hotels very nearby.
yeah,
So, so my wife and our friend were getting a little riled up. The two women were getting a little riled up. We should do something. What the fuck you gonna do? He goes, we should point them out. I go, you know what? You probably just don't want to get in that mess. And and she goes, well, I got to find out if this is ICE or not. So I followed when they went out. I went out too, and I noticed they all six of them got in one black pickup truck and they drove over to the hotel. So damned if they weren't ICE.
yeah,
And I look at these people, and they're younger guys, and I think to some extent I feel sorry for them because when this is over, their life is going to be hell. It's going to be hell, which they
it's
deserve.
it's hell now. They're not getting paid. People don't like them. Like, I have thick skin. You can pretty much call me anything you want. I don't care.
Yeah,
But they don't have that same type of, I guess I would say, confidence or feeling secure within themselves, that if you calling them names all the time and you telling them they suck, like, they take it personally. Like, this is your job. Like,
well,
you know that this is going to happen when you signed up to do this crap. So take what comes with it. Even though they're not getting paid the money they thought they was getting paid, they're not going
yeah.
home and all that stuff. So it's hard for them now. It's just going to get worse. They'll be all right.
Well, I understand the morale is bad because they're out on the road for 6 months. They don't see their families. They're not getting paid. They get treated like shit. And
Yeah.
when I look at these young guys doing this, it reminds me of young guys I maybe went to school with or grew up with. And these people, I think their big problem is they're not very emotionally mature and might have some bad shit in their life, and this is their way to get out of it. So they're kind of emotionally broken anyway. And when you wake up every day and somebody tells you you suck every day, kind of like me on TikTok, it can break some people.
You know, when it comes to them hearing all this stuff, when people call them, my response to it is the truth hurts sometimes. Um,
Absolutely.
and sometimes you just need to hear the truth. That's how I look at it. They I do say like what they was something that people weren't talking about is with like Alex Pretty and what happened to him is look at people like him and they really are offended. And the reason that they are offended is because certain groups or certain people move based off of people like Alex Pretty, who will say,
Right.
all right, it's 8 o'clock. They all went to the hotel. If you gotta, take children from point A to point B, now would be the time to do it. And they know that. And they see people out there with their phones, with their cameras, following them and documenting what they're doing. They know that there's a link there. And
Yeah.
they were doing what they could to break that link, but they didn't.
Well, I think these ICE agents have the same affliction that Donald Trump has. Some police officers have, regardless of what they're doing, even if it's illegal. If you have the audacity to contradict them, push
Hmm.
them, or tell them they're wrong, the first thing
Yeah.
they do is get mad, and then they act out and they do stupid shit. And while they may be getting away with it now, um, we know there's going to be some retribution after this is all said and done. There's got to be a list of people's names, and we know who some of them are. I haven't talked to you since the murders in Minneapolis, Renee
Yeah.
Good and Alex Preddy. That was devastating in this town. It was frightening in this town. What was your initial reaction when you heard about those two incidents?
Just heartbreaking and sad. These are
Yeah,
just two people that are standing up for the people in their community, standing up for what's right and standing against what's wrong. And they didn't do anything wrong. They didn't deserve that. However, Donald Trump and this administration felt the need to make an example out of them. And as bad as that was, it's almost like they were murdering them over and over and over again by
yeah.
slandering their names, by investigating them, spreading lies about them, calling them domestic terrorists and everything else that you could possibly think of. Um, it, it's just pretty much kind of speechless that
What's interesting is we were talking about arrogance and can't deal with people who contradict them. Kristi Noem came out right after they were shot, called them domestic terrorists, which was ridiculous, which they weren't. There's a full video to explain exactly what happened.
multiple
And then
videos.
yeah, multiple videos, multiple angles. And when she was in her recent testimony the other day, um, I think Jamie Raskin asked her to, will you apologize for saying they were domestic terrorists? And she could not do it. She just refused to do it. And I don't know if that's her own psyche or if that's just trying to appeal to Donald Trump. I don't know. But
Works. You
it's,
can find anyway.
well, that's a good point. Yeah, we can talk about that. She got fired today as we're recording this. Um, and I was a little surprised at first because we've been hearing, oh, Kristi Noem's on the way out. People dying on the streets. That didn't get her out. 5-year-old kids getting kidnapped. That didn't get her out. Saying some of the egregious things she said. That didn't get her out. But yesterday, when Representative John Kennedy of Louisiana, a Republican, asked her about her little advertising campaign with her on a horse and a hat and a cosplay shit. She spent $220 million on an advertising campaign. And he was kind of appalled by that. That's way over the top. It's $250 million. And he asked her a very important question. He said, "Did Donald Trump okay this? Because it would surprise me if he did." And she said he did. She said he did. And then it got all kinds of blowback. And that was the fatal flaw. And that was the largest sin, that she embarrassed Donald Trump. And that was the line where she decided, or he decided to fire her. That's fucking appalling.
I guess she'll have to have her affair in a regular hotel room bed like the rest of everybody else that do that type of stuff. And she
Well,
won't be able to get it in on that bed in that plane no more.
he didn't fire her outright. She still works for the government. He put her in another position. And I heard one reporter said, "I don't even know what that position is. It's probably something that Donald Trump just made up." But I don't know if you heard. I don't know if you heard this. That not only is she leaving, but her little affair partner's going with her. He's leaving the DHS too.
He should. And the reason that he should is because when it came to DHS, her boyfriend was like the one that was basically doing everything behind the scenes, the paperwork, the approvals,
Right.
these quote unquote missions and all of that crap. The only thing that she did was press conferences and commercials. That's it. She
Yeah.
didn't do work. She had no idea what she was talking about. She took a script and she read it. And she was just kind of like dressing up, kind of like how Donald Trump dresses up as president every day. She get up, she put a little outfit on, and she go out there and she lie and do her thing. But her little boo thing, he behind the scenes, he's the one that's pulling all the strings and doing everything. So if it wasn't for him being involved in it, I wouldn't care who she was sleeping with. All of them hookers sleep with everybody. They sleep with each other. So that wouldn't
Yeah.
even bother me. But she put him in it. So yeah, he needed to go. He
Well,
needed to.
and the thing about it is, Corey Lewandowski has been fired by Trump two other times. Remember, he was a campaign manager, and during the campaign, during the convention, there was a report that he hit a female reporter, and he said, "No, I didn't do that." Then the video came out and showed that he fucking did it, so he's out the door. But this fucker keeps coming back like a bad penny, and Donald Trump loves this guy for some reason, maybe because he's prone to assaulting women, and he feels an affinity towards somebody else that would do that. Um, but she's going, they're going some, the best part of that testimony, and I don't know if people noticed it. I saw somebody put it on TikTok and isolate the picture. She's sitting there like this, right?
Yeah.
And they're talking to her about Corey Lewandowski and the claim of an affair, being on the plane together and all that stuff. And over her left shoulder is her husband sitting there. And her husband's making all kinds of faces like, he's listening to his wife being taken to task about it, having an affair with Corey Lewandowski, being alone on a plane, uh, luxurious plane. I got to think going home with her that night had to be a little rough.
I don't think people like that do go home together. I think
You don't
she
think
go
so?
home. Yeah, I think they just keep up appearances. I think that she go home to whoever she going home to, and he go home to he going home to. I don't think they are like together like that. And I don't think that you can be the spouse of a Republican and have any type of like meaningful relationship. They're not gonna stick up for you. They're not going to defend your honor, I guess, or whatever. Like, look at Ted Cruz. Donald
Yeah.
Trump called his man butt ugly, and he turned around like, but at least she's not Jenny Thomas. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's where their brains go when it comes to stuff like that. They're not gonna stick up for their woman, their spouse. Her husband, there's no way he didn't know about her and her boyfriend. I don't think if he doing what he doing, I don't really think he cares. But to be on national television, I wouldn't do that. I just wouldn't do that. If you want to have an affair and this is a sham situationship or whatever, you know what, give me some of your airplane money and I'll go up there and embarrass myself. But if that's not going to be in writing, I'm not going to do that. He
I
could
thought that was
be
I
like
thought that was
Melania.
terrible. I thought that was terrible when Donald Trump said Ted Cruz's wife was ugly, because That's just not right. That's just nice, not nice. I mean, if you said she was plain or homely, okay, I can buy into that. Ugly is a strong word.
Well,
Stupid. Now Ted Cruz is an ugly motherfucker, an ugly
at the beginning of this
Grandpa
podcast,
Munster looking motherfucker.
you know what? I'm gonna leave Ted Cruz and his ugly, I mean his wife alone. I know he ain't gonna come after me for saying that about his wife.
Nah, he doesn't care. He's such a piece of shit. So now Donald Trump immediately announced who's going to replace Kristi Noem. Have
Who
you heard
is
of
it?
this?
No.
Senator Mark Wayne Mullen from Oklahoma. Now, if you remember Mark Wayne Mullen, I mean, the fact that his name is Mark Wayne,
This is
his name is Mark Wayne, one word, MarkWayne. It's one word. Mark Wayne Mullen tells you he is a honiac motherfucker. You know, he, he's a guy who's a senator that used to be an MMA fighter and is now a senator, is a big time Trump humper, thinks he's a tough guy. And I don't know if you remember this. He was in a hearing one time, and this other big guy was being questioned. And this other big guy um, had made some comments about Mark Wayne Mullen about, taking it outside, so to speak. So Mark Wayne Mullen, a U.S. senator, sitting there questioning him and says, you said someplace you'd want to take care of us. He goes, this is a place. He says, you want to take care of it? He goes, I do. And they both stood up in the Senate chamber and they were going to fight it out until Bernie Sanders said, you're fucking a senator, for fuck's sake, stop it.
Did you know what about Mark Wayne Mullen is he is one of those people that runs around and is like, I used to sleep in my construction truck and I built my construction company from scratch. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. And his
Mhm.
business was handed down to him for his father. He didn't have to do anything. He wants to judge everybody else based off of something that he himself never did. It's just this lie that him and people like him perpetrates, which is insane because he just thinks people can't, well, people can look it up, but people who vote for him, they don't. Because he acts
Yeah,
like
most
nobody knows that he didn't sleep in his truck. He didn't build his company from scratch, that this is something that was handed to him. He thinks people can't look that up. Of course, we can, and we know this, but the people that he depends on, they don't know that. So
well,
get
it's
away
kind of
with
like
it.
kind of like Donald Trump telling us his dad gave him a small loan of $1 million and he turned it into billions, which really not the way it happened. He's been
Mhm.
bailed out from everything he's ever fucking done, and he's
Yeah.
failed at everything he's done.
Yeah.
So,
Right? You can only marry hoes. No educated woman want to be with him. Get the hell out of
yeah.
here.
I'm thinking with Mark Wayne Mullen being the head of the DHS, it's not going to change much. I mean, it's just he just took one dumbass and replaced him with another dumbass, evil dumbass.
Yeah, unfortunately. And we just have to keep being there for each other and building community and helping each other get through this until it's over. I guess that's because somebody like that is not going to make it get any better. And it's crazy because even now people think that, oh, ICE just left Minnesota. No, they didn't. The news just stopped talking about it. That's all. When
That's
they
pretty
talk
much
about
true.
it, so it is what it is.
So, what other places were you at besides Minnesota since the last time we talked?
Other than that, it was just a bunch of like driving because you can't put children on planes. So when their families flee and go with other relatives or other states, and they leave their children behind, you have to get their children to them. So other than that, it was just a bunch of driving, getting them there. They had, we had to kind of like switch it up because when they put the checkpoints up, for some reason, I don't understand this. They were only like stopping and pulling over like white women. So like any like nurses or anyone that was like white that was with us, they were constantly getting pulled over and getting checked. So it was just like, okay, when we switch it up and then I could drive or something like that, everything was fine. So that's why we had to switch it up and
You
drive
think
and
that
all
was
that.
a you think that was kind of a racist perception too? All these bleeding heart white lady liberals, they're helping out people. Oh, there goes a black woman. She ain't helping nobody.
Probably, yeah. They social
Fuck.
media just kind of has this image that at this point we just really don't care. We're not gonna be there for nobody and all that other kind of stuff. So it's just, you know, stereotypes of black women that they believe in. So let them.
The other thing I have to bring up, there's another location that's important to you too, because you kind of got family there, is Japan. You've got
Yeah.
your significant other and his two girls.
Hmm.
How's it going with that? I mean, I know that whole situation was a tough situation because your significant other didn't feel comfortable here, given that he's an immigrant. He's got his girls here. He took a job in Japan, which is obviously a hardship for you. So how's that going?
Try dating me. Um, I would like my brother and I, when he was like in the service and he was overseas, we had this rule that no news was good news. And so that's how I prioritize who I communicate with, him, Kelsey, and then of course they would get word to anybody else. But those two I had to kind of prioritize. And then my oldest daughter, so I can check in on her and Yaya. And then like my brother, his birthday was like the 9th. So I would carve out certain days and times when I could, check in with him, even though our understanding is no news is good news. So it's kind of crazy how when he was overseas, we slipped into that. And then when I told him I had to leave and I was going to leave my phone at home, he was like, no news is good news, right? And I was just like, yeah, okay. And that's how we handled it.
Got to update you.
But I'm
I
not
got to update the folks on the Wild Child. She's well known here. She in Germany now? She's still in Germany?
yeah, yeah, she's still there. And it's so crazy that we were talking about her because I talked up to my brother earlier, and we were talking about Trucker T on the podcast because Trucker has said something about being on that plane, gearing up, and thinking about like your last phone call, who you talked to, and all that stuff. My
Right.
brother was married at that time, and he had just had my nephew, and he talked to his wife and he was telling her like the last person I want to talk to is my sister. So he talked to me before he left and we were talking about Trucker T talking about that airplane and he was like in his head like, okay, I talked to my sister, everything gonna be good because I know she gonna handle it and she's the only person that can, his wife was crazy, nobody liked her. She's the only person that can keep Tasha in line and all that stuff. Um, and I was telling him how bad I felt because I kept saying, like, as much as I appreciate his service and listening to Trucker T, how much I appreciate his service. And I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I just felt so like the best thing I did as a mom was making sure that when Donald Trump got elected, okay, Kelsey, you want to travel, and that's why you want to go to the military. We'll make a way for you to travel and be able to go to school abroad and do what you need to do, but you're not going to do it under a Trump administration. She pushed back on it. My family pushed back on it. I had to go through every favor I have ever had called in to get her into studying abroad, right? And that was me like I have to protect her from this administration because she saw that as her only way out. Um, yeah, I wanted to apologize to him for that. And he was like, no need. Like a lot of military families like have military children. But my
Yeah.
brother was like, no way. In this man's army, we will be sending any of our children. So don't apologize for thinking that. But that was like one of my first thoughts. So I'm so happy that, just and seeing how he doesn't even go to the dignified transfer. You basically killed these people's children and you can't even freaking face them.
No.
You're supposed to be honoring them and you're talking about curtains, laughing. Everybody else in the room was laughing. And I just feel like if that was my daughter, I would have lost it. I don't know how those families are watching that on television. And ugh, I don't know how
That's
they're
what
doing.
that's one of the things about Donald Trump. Everything about him is disrespectful, and him
Yeah.
not showing up at that tarmac is the epitome of the disrespectfulness that he shows. But when you're talking about the wild child and keeping her out of the military and sending her to school in Germany and doing all that stuff, Right about now, it looks like you made the right choice because she could be going over to Iran right now and being
Yeah,
one of those people that innocent people that are killed. There was one woman that was killed in the sixth. She was a woman from suburb of St. Paul, White Bear Lake. And she had a kid and she had a family and all that stuff. And she was killed. And I'm sorry to say, but for no fucking reason. There was no
no,
reason for this to be happening. And this poor woman was going to get out in a few days, and now she's dead. That
yeah,
is that that is horrible to consider.
yeah. And to know that the person that's responsible for that gets to be disrespectful. If you watch videos of Obama when he went to dignified transfers and you listen to the soldiers that talk about like him getting up at like 1 o'clock in the morning, him wanting to be out there whether it was cold or whatever, him
Yeah,
facing the families and taking the brunt of their grief. You know what I mean? And I understand that that's why he went gray really, really quickly. That's why he aged really, really quickly, just carrying that on him. You see how quickly Joe Biden just kind of the weight of that pulling our troops out and knowing that 11 people died, the weight
yeah,
of that, carrying that around with you. Donald Trump just, excuse my French, he just don't give a fuck. He not going out there to console you when you grieving. He damn sure not going to stand there and let you yell at him out of grief. And he's not going to welcome your children home. He's not going to honor them, even when he's supposed to be honoring them. He talking about the freaking curtains. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like for me as a mom, I feel like I protected her and that's what I was supposed to do. But at the same time, it feels like a bad thing to think that or to say that because I don't want to be disrespectful to the people that are serving. So, but that was a thought that I had, and I'm just happy that I don't have to worry about her like that. But it doesn't negate from the fact that I still worry about our other servicemen and women that are over there. Still worry about them, but it's different when it's your
absolutely. Well, what added insult to injury when he was out, I told the story before on the podcast because I found out more about it. There was a video after three Americans were killed. There was a
yeah,
video. He was standing in front of a curtain and he said, three people have died. There's probably going to be more. And his response to that was, that's the way it is.
yeah,
Then, when he wrapped up that video, he walked around the curtain, and behind the curtain in Mar-a-Lago was a million plate fundraising dinner with dancing and music, and he partied the rest of the night. This fucker has no respect for anybody. He doesn't understand the importance, or, I mean, he's a malignant narcissist,
yeah.
but I think I'm comfortable in saying he's a sociopath too, in that most of them are sociopaths, which means they have no empathy for anybody. And he clearly
No,
showed that to be the case.
yeah. Not only that, but I think that part of being a sociopath is actually taking some kind of like pleasure from watching the suffering of others. And I really do think that he feels like that. I really, really think he feels like that. And the people around him, they know better and they may feel differently, but they don't care more about that than they do about their bottom line in their pockets. You know, so
Right.
they can sit there, as disgusting as it is, to hear this man talking about curtains when you got people, babies in boxes, and laugh at that. They're willing to do that and go home and go to sleep.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't understand how any of these people sleep. I have no idea how they do it. I wouldn't be able to.
Clearly,
Mm,
Donald Trump has an attention deficit problem because he does one thing and then he loses interest and he does something else. Now, this war in Iran, I think he believed that he is the most powerful guy in the room, the most powerful country. He was going to go in, bomb them for a couple days. They'd give up and do whatever he wanted. Now, clearly, that's not happening. In fact, Iran is kind of playing America in that they're sending up these cheap drones and they're forcing Americans to take them out with very expensive defense weapons, and they're running out of defense weapons. Um, but the problem is Donald Trump, even when he's confronted with the prospect that he was wrong, it was a bad choice, he will never admit to it. He'll double down and triple down. what do you think is going to happen with this war thing? Is this going to be something that goes on for a long period of time? Does he lose interest and walk away and claim victory? What do you think?
Yeah, it's gonna go on for a while because he's stupid. And the people that he is using our children to play these games with their lives, they know he's stupid. You know what I mean? So you already have another country that's like, oh, we're gonna sit back and let them use all of their stuff up, and then we're gonna target them because they
Right.
understand Donald Trump thinks that he could just go around and bomb whoever the heck he wants to and just bomb after bomb after bomb, and there's no repercussions for that. And they understand that he's stupid and he doesn't know any better. They understand that Donald Trump governing on Twitter or X or whatever you want, or his own Truth Social, Life Social, whatever you want to call it, they don't have to guess about his strategy. He
No.
posted publicly. He tells people what he's going to do before he does it. We were
Yeah.
talking about the war for how many weeks before he dropped the bomb? So they
Yeah.
weren't surprised that this was coming. They weren't like taken off guard or anything like that. He said what he was going to do and then he did it. Like I don't understand that logic. As a parent, I don't understand that logic. I never say, when you come home from school, these are the questions that I'm going to ask you to give you a chance to talk to your friends and get your story straight. No, you're going to come home. How was school? You're going to lie and
Well,
then I'm going to tell you what I know. He can't even do that. He's an
the
idiot.
thing
And
the thing is he's not a military strategist. He doesn't know anything about military strategy. He is a bully, and the whole goal for a bully is to intimidate and get you to back down. So
mhm.
he says, I'm going to kick your ass. And if you don't back down, he says, I'm going to really kick your ass. And then he keeps building it up and up until the point where he has to do something, like in the case of bombing Iran. Now, there's a lot of people asking questions. Why are you doing this? Donald Trump said three different things. His people say three different things. There doesn't seem to be any plan, any strategy, or any reason for doing this. And I firmly believe that the only reason we're doing this is at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel. Benjamin Netanyahu has been saying that for 40 years he's been trying to get America to attack Iran. And the only one dumb enough to do it, of course, is Donald Trump. But
Yeah.
he's doing it either because he's trying to do a solid for Benjamin Netanyahu, or Netanyahu's got some leverage over him. But nonetheless, he's putting Americans at risk, killing Americans, and bombing the hell out of Iran. And then they in turn are going to bomb places like Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, um, uh, Kuwait, all that kind of stuff. And Donald Trump said, "Yeah, I was a little surprised that they went crazy and started bombing other countries. Motherfucker, I could have told you that. And I'm just a dumbass sitting in my living room."
You know, when you said that Donald Trump is not a military strategist, the first thing I thought was something that you always say. Donald Trump doesn't know fuck all about fuck all. Of course, he's not a military strategist.
No.
But I will say this. Part of the reason that Donald Trump was able to do what it is that he's doing is because Donald Trump was allowed to bomb Iraq. Donald Trump was allowed to bomb Nigeria. Donald Trump was allowed to bomb Somalia, I believe he bombed them. He bombed Yemen. He bombed Nigeria, God, Iran. And let's not forget the
Iran
bombings that
twice.
he did to the fishermen. Let's not
Yeah.
forget that he bombed Venezuela, went in, kidnapped their president and their first lady. The reason that Donald Trump felt comfortable dropping bombs in the Middle East is because he had seven bombings leading up to this, and nobody told Donald Trump to sit his ass down somewhere. This is not what we're going to do. The
And they're still
reason
not.
I never told him that is because this is exactly what they want him to do. All of a sudden, you see all of the military contractors. He's holding meetings with them. The meetings is one thing. The begging is something different. How you got to
Yeah.
go over there and beg Spain? How are you going to go over there? You know what country I'm talking about? I can't even say.
You talk about him wanting to use the airports at Spain, then tell him to
It's
fuck
Spain.
himself.
It's
Yeah.
Spain. Not only that, but gosh, who is the other one they blame Biden for? Giving him all of our stuff. I'm trying to think of it. Our ally that we were supposed to protect. And all of a sudden Republicans don't want to help them anymore. You know who I'm
Oh,
talking about.
yeah. I
Jesus.
know who we're talking.
Anyway,
Do you know how
he's
much it's costing to do this war?
too damn much.
Okay, that came out today. In order to do this war, the cost.
I've been people don't know, but I'm in Utah with Debbie for like a week, so my
Okay.
politics is a bit off. So if I don't know something, that's why.
No, 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 no. I don't expect you to know. It just came out. It's costing America first, $1 billion a day. That means yesterday it cost $1 billion. Today it cost $1 billion. Tomorrow it's going to cost $1 billion. If it goes for 30 days and it's already going into a week, it'll cost 30 billion. If we do it for 60 days, it's going to be 60 billion. And it might even ramp up from there because we're running short of stuff. So who do you think is getting that money? Who's getting the billions of dollars? Not us.
Well, not us. And consider the fact that the Pentagon hasn't passed an audit in I don't know how long. You
Yeah.
already know they are charging $1,000 for a nut and a bolt. You already know
Yeah.
that type of stuff is going on. Talk about waste, fraud, and abuse, right? So we already know. And then Donald Trump is stupid. So of course these contractors are just lining their pocket. This is like Christmas morning to them at the expense
It
of
is.
our children. Their children ain't over there dying. It's our children that's over there dying. So they line in their pockets. They getting rich. Donald Trump is getting rich. You know what he didn't say? He didn't say, you know what? Let's stop this $200 million ballroom construction and let's look after our servicemen and women. He didn't say that. He didn't say, you know what? The FBI director, he really doesn't need a special jet and a jacket. We don't really need to fly across the country to pick his girlfriend up. He didn't say, my team, myself, the government, we're going to cut down on our spending to help. What he is saying is, the American people can pay for this. We're still going to keep our same spending levels. We're going to keep living the lifestyles that we have become accustomed to. But y'all broke people, y'all gonna have to pay for this. All of this, y'all need to pay for. And by the way, some of y'all kids ain't coming back home. That's what he's saying openly to the American people.
Well, it's
And
ironic that he started this all out by saying America first, no more new wars. As you pointed out, he's bombed 7 countries
mhm,
since he's taken office this time, just over in a
yeah,
year, not to mention
mhm,
sending troops into American cities.
yeah,
And in terms of America first, why are we fighting Israel's war in Iran? That's not America first. Everything he promised, he's gone back on. And do you sense that Republicans or the Trump folks that loved him so much, do you think they're finally getting it or not?
um, I think they get it, but I don't think they get it for the reason that people say. A part of it is that it is affecting them, right? But
Yes.
part of Donald Trump's appeal to a lot of the people that support him is the way he made them feel. So they would look at somebody like me and say, that position that she's in, she's a DEI hire. Should have been a white man in that position. They only hired her because of affirmative action. Or
Yeah.
that's not her house, that's Section 8. Or this, you know what I mean? Like they made certain people feel better than other people because I'm low IQ and they got good genetics. You know what I mean? And what he is doing right now, and what a lot of people are starting to see, is Donald Trump is treating you the same way he treated me. So that feeling that he gave them to make them feel better, to make them feel special, to give them privilege, to give them excuses to be as racist as they want, or whatever it is that he was making them feel, he's taking that away from them. Because, oh yeah, you are in the food bank line. You're struggling. You don't have money to pay anything. So all that they didn't care about America first. Like if they were doing well financially right now and Donald Trump was doing what he was doing, they wouldn't care. But when they go to food bank lines and they stand in food bank lines with people that they say are low IQ and they look down upon, but yeah, you're standing in that same line with them,
Yeah.
that's what's making a lot of them wake up. So it's not that they are being affected by it. It's not that all of a sudden they just became woke and they have empathy and all this other kind of stuff. It's just that they are realizing that they are in the same boat as everybody else that they've been looking down on. And I think that's what's causing them to wake up. So I don't think these people grew a conscience, because if they
Yeah.
had one, they wouldn't have voted in the first damn place. I think the way that he made them feel, he's taken that. It's kind of like being in an abusive relationship when they love bomb you and then they knock you upside your head. The only difference with Donald Trump is when you love bomb somebody and you knock them upside of their head, the next thing you need to do is go get them a gift. You need to make them feel special. You need to
Yeah.
keep them feeling that hope that okay, it can get better, it can change. You need to keep them riding with you. He's not giving them a reason to ride with them. So he love bombed them at first, and now he's knocking them upside their head, but there's no honeymoon period after that. He just you're on your own. I don't care. He's
Yeah.
ruthless. And I think they're starting to realize that, but I don't think that they care about America first or any of that other stuff. I really don't think so. But I could be wrong. It could be some out there like that. But
No, I think you're right. It's all about a vibe or an attitude than it is about policy. They don't give a shit about policy. I think President Lyndon Johnson made a statement. You can correct me if I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Lyndon Johnson. He basically said, as long as the poorest white man is better off than the wealthiest black man, they think they're swimming in shit.
yeah, yeah. And now Donald Trump has just said, no, you and that poor black man is in the same boat. And
Yeah.
that making them realize that he's not who he said he was. I think that's having more of an impact than anything else. That's my thought on that.
Well, and I think in spite of the fact that he's doing everything he can to distract from it, I
Yeah.
think the Epstein file thing has been the one thing that's kind of broken the back of MAGA. They
It
really
ain't,
wanted that information, and Donald Trump is now trying to cover it up. And they're starting to question that.
they just now started to question it. They
Well,
just
that's what
now
I,
started.
yeah, yeah, I know. We're
I
talking
can't
about dumb
think.
motherfuckers now.
There were victims of Epstein that voted for Donald Trump. So it's not like these people don't know who this man is. It's just that they didn't care until he put them in the same boat as he put everybody else. Like he's making them, he made them feel special, made them feel different. We're gonna get all these other people out. They're taking all your good jobs and all this other kind of stuff. And then they had to realize that the good job was farming, labor, construction,
Yeah.
$11 a day. You know what I mean? Like I think, but honestly, at the same time, I think that's the best way for them to learn that lesson is to realize that they're no better than anybody else and they can see
Well,
themselves with everybody else, and then maybe they can turn that focus on the people at the top who they should be focused on. Maybe. I
after
don't know.
after after the election in November, you and I and everybody else in this country that has a conscience kind of we're kind of depressed and upset and worried about what the future might hold with Donald Trump becoming president again. And you and I talked about this, and you've kind of changed your attitude about this. You were a little more compassionate than I was at first, and then you kind of figured it out that the only way for it to get any change in this country and to wake some of these motherfuckers up is a catastrophic crash. And it seems like we're lining up for that catastrophic crash, not only economy but militarily and safety and the Epstein files and all this stuff coming out. Are you still feeling the same way that it's going to have to be a catastrophic crash before some of these people get it?
I think it has to be that. And then there also has to be people in a certain position of privilege to start to understand what happens when just like the general population struggles.
Yeah.
I don't know how I don't know, like people like, okay, so you know, like one of my things that I like is true crime. One of my
Yeah.
favorite genres of true crime, people so don't look at me like I'm crazy, is like during the Depression and the crimes during the Depression. And during the Depression, a lot of people don't know this, but they had something called snatch rackets. And what a snatch racket is it's a depression, people struggling, people starving. Bank robbing became so dangerous, you like they dead or alive on wanted posters, literally. So what they
Yeah.
used to do is like, hey, it's kind of dangerous to be a bank robber. Look what happened with Bonnie and Clyde. Like we don't want to go down that road. So they started kidnapping loved ones of wealthy people. I think like one of the most
Hmm.
famous cases was like the Lindbergh kidnapping, right? But there was a lot of people and babies kidnapped, right? And I think about Savannah Guthrie, if you followed that with her mom being kidnapped and stuff like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like during the Depression, I think like in 1932, there was like over 3,000 kidnappings, like in just that one year. It was like kidnapping epidemic. It was like out of control how many people were being kidnapped. Rich people were buying kidnapping insurance for people in their lives. They had like private security. They was going making all these precautions because they knew they were a target. The fact that you have so many people of privilege just walking around with no security. The fact that Ted Cruz can go on television, talk all the trash in the world. And I'm not trying to say we should target their families, but our children are hungry. Our children are starving. Our children is in the Middle East dying. His wife and his kids are just out there walking around in public, like ain't nothing going on. But when you put people in a position to where they're desperate, they need to eat and they have family to feed, you know, I gotta go to what Will says. They're gonna start picking up pitchforks and lighting torches and going after people. And I
Yeah.
think that when rich people are put in harm's way because of a majority of the population struggling, I think we'll start to see a change there too. So I'd be holding out hope for her mother and hoping that she would be okay. But for me, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, are we going back to snatch rackets now? Like people with money who can actually pay ransom? Are their loved ones going to start getting targeted? Because my kids need to eat. I'm not going to hurt
Yeah.
your child. I'm going to keep them safe for the 2 days that I had him here. But you're gonna have to give me some money. It's not gonna hurt you. And a lot of people look at it like that. But you could
Well,
afford it. It's not gonna hurt you. You're gonna be stressed out a little bit. You're gonna pay couple of $100,000. You're gonna get your kid back, and everybody gonna be good. People really do look at it like that. I think this might be like the first in stuff that we see like that, when people are gonna be missing and being returned for cash.
I excuse me. I hadn't thought about it until you just mentioned it. You know, everybody talks about the French Revolution and charging the capital and doing all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah,
you're
stuff
right.
like that.
During the Depression, there was a lot of kidnappings. We had some right here in Minneapolis because there were a lot of gang members that would come from. They had a deal. If you were in Chicago and you were a crook and you went to St. Paul,
Yeah.
uh, they'd just let you live. They wouldn't bother you. They had a deal worked out with the mayor and the chief of police. But there was a kidnapping here, and it was the owner or CEO of the Hams Brewery here.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. I
Yeah,
think I know who you're talking about. Wasn't it like William Ham or something like that?
it was William A. Ham Jr., president of Theodore Ham Brewing Company. He was
That's how much
kidnapped.
I know about kidnappings during the
Yeah.
Depression. William Ham Jr. I knew that. Okay, go ahead. I know who you're talking about.
Well, he was kidnapped by the Barker Karpus gang.
Yep.
Now, Barker is Ma Barker. You remember the stories about Ma Barker and her sons? That was
Yeah.
her. And then Karpus was known as Creepy Karpus because he was, well, kind of creepy. But they snatched him up, held him for 4 days. They ransomed him for $100,000, which is like $2 million today. And they released him near Wyoming, Minnesota, which is north of Minneapolis, kind of on the way up to Hinckley and Duluth, but it's maybe 35 miles north of town. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's a thought. And I wanted to ask you about the Guthrie thing because I know you're into true crime. My wife is too. Um, which makes me nervous because she watches about these murders and listens about these murders all day, and I think she's
Well,
building an aptitude for
we're not
committing the
scary.
perfect crime. What?
We're not scary women. Just, don't mess with us.
Yeah, exactly. But if that's part of it, if it's just about money and it's about striking back at the establishment, why Savannah Guthrie's mom? I
Um,
don't get it.
Honestly, I don't think that these were like people who were sophisticated with it because one, you targeted an old woman who needs daily medication and she was
Yeah.
fragile already. So I don't think this was like planning. I think this was something that was more desperate. I think maybe they thought this would be like a quick turnaround and nothing could go wrong. But you have to be prepared when people are elderly and they're sick. Like you have to watch out for people like that. Not trying to give anybody any tips, but you would typically want to aim towards somebody who is healthy, who could go a day or two without eating, that type of thing, or someone who isn't dependent on medications. And I think like this might be like something like that's a bumbling, like, I don't want to call them idiots, but this is kind of like stumbling and fumbling their way through it. But I do think that other people watching that who are desperate, who have more patience and a little bit more common sense, can look at that situation and see the errors and make a more, I don't know how to say it, more positive outcome of a situation like that than what these people did. I don't look at it as being a one and done. I look at this as being kind of like that straw that kind of, or that snowball that's starting to go downhill, and it could easily build up the more desperate people are. I think that that's a possibility when I look at that. But I also think she was an easy target. She didn't have
Yeah.
security. She didn't have people with her 24/7. Her cameras wasn't what they would need to be in that type of neighborhood or that type of home. I think she should have been a little bit more protected than what she was. Not blaming the family, but she was not protected. She was an easy target and they went after her.
You know what I'm afraid of with this particular case with Savannah Guthrie's mom? She's an elderly woman, as you said. She needs medication. She's
Mhm.
older, so she's fragile. And this has been going on a long time. And like you
Yeah.
said, usually when you're doing something like this, you want the quick turnaround. You want to get the money, get them back, and finish it up. Like I
Hmm.
said, William Ham, it took 4 days. They got $100,000, done deal, and I
Yep.
think they got caught on top of it. But I think of this possibly being like the Lindbergh kidnapping, because when you
Yeah.
said bumbling, they snatched the kid, they snatched the kid, and then probably shortly thereafter,
Yeah.
accidentally the kid died. So
Yeah.
now they got this kidnapping. They're still trying to get the money, but they don't have an alive party. So they're trying to get the money. I think they got some money. They
Mhm.
claim they found the kidnapper, and people are not questioning that now. But I wonder if it's taken so long with Savannah Guthrie, and this woman is so fragile that maybe she's already passed. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I gave up hope on her being alive. If it was me or my community and one of our seniors, we would just be hoping that we could give her a respectable resting place and
Right.
not to be wondering forever. I think that's the least that they could do is drop a note and let the family know where she is, or they may understand that there could be clues on her that could lead back to them, so maybe they're just protecting their own selves. But hopefully the family doesn't hear me, but realistically, I wouldn't assume that my loved one was still alive after all of this time. Knowing the medical history, I would just be saying, allow for us to give her a resting place. Like that's what you would want for your mother. That would be my plea to the public. But I understand why they have to hold out hope too. I just don't think this is going to be the last time that we see a case like this. I really don't.
So you think we might see a rash of kidnappings just because people have to do something and it's less direct than staging a riot or committing an
Yeah,
assassination or something like that?
yeah. I think that people will be desperate, but they will want to be in a situation. They know they have to do something, but they don't want to put them in a situation where they could end up in prison or they can't survive. How's that going to help them? I think
Yeah.
that would be strategic when they do it. I think if I was a person of privilege right now, like I would already have private security for my family. If I was a senator right now, I would already have security for my family and stuff like that. That's what I would be doing. But I think that they are comfortable believing, and rightfully so, that the American people just not going to do that. Because so far, look how look how much they've been able to push so far. Zero consequences. These people still walking around, they still getting on planes, they family still out there at the playground, going to school is normal, not a care in the world. So I think when they start to see how desperate we are, that could make them put pressure on the right people to, hey, this is enough. We need to stop and we need to turn this around. But the only way they are going to do that is when they start being targeted. That's what I think. But I could
Let
be
me let me
wrong
let me
because
ask you
they've done,
this: the Savannah Guthrie thing, her mom.
yeah.
People have all kinds of theories about this, and they're trying to tie it into the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And the way they tie it into it is that Savannah Guthrie had interviewed a bunch of, well, I won't say a bunch, but a few of Jeffrey Epstein's survivors slash victims. You think that
Okay.
may have had anything to do with it?
No, why not just take Savannah? What you taking her mama for?
Exactly. Exactly. Wouldn't there be
I
more?
don't get that at all.
Yeah.
I don't get that at all. There are certain situations where you would target someone's mother instead of targeting the person. If I was in the streets right now and I was doing dirt, and I'm constantly moving, I'm dodging, I'm staying out of the way. And the only way that you could get to me is to get through my mama or one of my daughters. You're gonna do that, but you're not gonna kidnap them. You're not gonna do that. You're gonna show me that we couldn't get to you, so we got to them. You shouldn't have been hiding. That's to set an example. That's to show other people don't run from me, don't take from me, and think you're gonna run and get away with it because you could get touched in one way or the other. Her interviewing Epstein victims, she's the one with the information. She's the one with the knowledge. Why would you target her mom? If you want to silence these victims' voices, you'll go after her. I don't understand the whole Epstein connection there. I know it runs deep, but I don't believe that. I don't know what that
Well,
is.
it's other people have talked. Let's talk about the Epstein thing a little bit. Um, we know there's a lot of very important men involved in this situation.
Yeah.
Uh, and as much as Donald Trump may be putting pressure on keeping these files out of the public, they are too. You don't hear it as much because they're not president. But when you look at the things that have happened with this Jeffrey Epstein, Virginia Giffrey, there's been several people that have been tied to this thing that have died. Do you think
Hmm.
it's that insidious that people are doing that? Because Giffrey was coming out with a book or came out with a book and she ends up dead. And I'd seen her interviewed, and I'm certainly not an expert, but she didn't look like somebody that was going to commit suicide. Jeffrey Epstein's a narcissist, not the kind of person that's going to commit suicide.
Right.
Um, do you think there's something that deep and dark going on where they're doing absolutely anything and everything to keep this stuff hidden?
I do. And here's
Okay.
why. The girls that I've had in my home from red states, um, people use scare tactics to keep them quiet. So
Mm-hmm.
whether that's saying, I'll target your little sister or I'll target your brother. Um, I've had girls in my home whose pets have been shot, whose pets have come up
Wow.
missing, whose pets have come up dead, just found them dead in the morning type of stuff.
Yeah.
So I don't put that past these people. I really don't. And it's unfortunate that I have to look at that and be like, yep, I know girls, plenty of young girls who have experienced those level of fears just to be compliant. So we're going to show you what we're capable of doing. Just as an example, to keep you quiet, to keep you compliant, to keep you, because a lot of times they want that, I don't know how to say it, but like that girlfriend experience where they want the girls to, even though they're like cringing on the inside, they don't want to be there, they don't want to do it, but they have to
Yeah.
act like they're into this person, or they have to act like that person is just the best, whatever,
Yeah.
just to, just to basically keep that person happy so that you can get through that situation and live on for another day or continue for another day or to keep your siblings safe for another day because this monster is threatening them. I've had there's these little like bleach tablets. Instead of like pouring bleach, there's bleach tablets. There
Yeah.
was a girl at home and her abuser put bleach tablets in her fish tank and just killed a fish. So they do stuff like that. They really, really do stuff like that.
Have you read or seen any of the stuff that has already come out in the emails?
Mm-mm.
You haven't read
I
any of the stuff?
I heard people talk about it and people reporting on it, but for me personally, hearing people or seeing girls struggle with that firsthand, hearing what they say firsthand, knowing what Kelsey went through firsthand, that's not something that I have any interest at all whatsoever in reading or seeing.
Well,
I'll
the
take
thing,
the lowlights or the highlights from whatever you want to call it, but I don't want to like sit down and read that. I don't want to do it.
well, you remember when QAnon was around and they were talking about the Democratic cabal and how they were drinking adrenochrome and sacrificing babies and the pizza gate and all that stuff. You remember those stories, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you look at some of these files, some of the shit that you read in these files is not that far off of what they were saying QAnon way back when. They're still a cult. They're still fucking crazy. And they were trying to pin it all on the Democrats. And
Yeah.
there are some Democrats involved in this situation, but they're talking about child sex trafficking. They're talking about torture. They're talking
Yeah.
about murder. They even made references toward cannibalism. And and when somebody asked me about that, I said, God damn it, I hope that's not true. I mean, I hope it's not true. I hope it's a conspiracy theory because I feel like if we find out everything in these files is true, the only thing left to do is what you do when your house is full of mold. Burn the motherfucker down and start over. That's almost
Yeah.
what it seems like.
What other countries are doing overseas because they don't get cooperation with our government here is working through Epstein's estate. Now, his
Right.
estate is very cooperative with investigations. They really, really are very cooperative. And so one of the things that other countries are doing are they are working with the state and they are following money trails. So there were a lot of families that were paid off. And so what they will do is look at the family and the child that were their settlements were paid to. Is that child still alive, or what happened to that child, or what happened to that person? And some of the money that's being like tracked back to a lot of like unknown families that were paid were like male victim families that were paid like some of the most money. And so that's what they've been tracking, working with the state and just following those payouts to different families. And that's how they are tracking people. And then when they find a payout to a family, but a victim that's missing, then they have to try to figure out from there what happened with the victim. So that's how they're conducting their investigations. I think we will find out about it and we will hear about it. I don't think it's going to happen under Donald Trump's watch, though. I really don't.
Do you think we'll end up getting some of this information from
Yeah,
European
it's
countries that just
yeah,
tired of Donald Trump and release it?
yeah. I don't see them covering up for him the way that this administration is covering up for him. I think when it comes to other countries, they're going to do their investigations the same way that we used to do investigations. They're not
Right.
going to be out in the open talking about it. They're just going to be doing whatever it is that they need to do. And then when all of the I's are dotted, all the T's is crossed, that there is no holes anywhere in this information, that's when it'll be provided to us. Because our government's not going to give it to us unless, for some strange reason, powers that be change hands. Then we'll know.
Now, um, we know that Pam Bondi released 3 million documents, and then they pulled back and they deleted some documents because they
I don't care
particularly,
about
what's that?
I don't like that woman. I do not like that woman.
Well, we
I
could
just want
no, no, I do not either, and we could talk about her. She released the 3 million, and then they pulled back or deleted a bunch of them because they specifically implicated Donald Trump. They weren't
to.
verified crimes, but they certainly justified an investigation. And that's the weird thing. We're getting these investigations in Europe, but nobody as a co-conspirator has been investigated in this country. And that's on
Yeah,
the shoulders of the DOJ, not only for the Democrats but not only the Republicans, but the Democrats too. They've
yeah,
given these fucking people a pass for decades. Now, Pam Bondi has been subpoenaed to testify in front of the Oversight Committee regarding the Epstein files. And I'm glad of that for a couple of reasons. With this war going on, everybody's saying, oh, we're forgetting about the Epstein files. Well, this will bring it right back to the top when she testifies. But then, I don't know if you noticed, she got the subpoena. And then today, they said, oh, we're releasing some more files. And basically, what they're doing is releasing the files that have been out there that they pulled back. And I think the reason for it is not so much that they want to release it, but by releasing it and then pulling it back, it made people even more suspicious of them. So they figured out, well, we better just release it because people will make it worse than it is. And I don't know how you can do that. It's fucking horrible. But how do you think that Pam Bondi hearing's going to go based on what we saw last time?
what I don't like, there's like for me, there's just kind of like three things. Don't play with my babies. Don't play with my money. Don't play with my intelligence, right?
Yeah.
And it just irritates the heck out of me that she treats us like horses. She just puts like they just want to dangle this carrot in front of our face, right? And then when you sit them down like in front of you and you ask them questions, they don't answer any questions. So I don't really like, I know it's going to embarrass her, but I just don't see the point in that. And in a lot of ways, like the hearings, when they embarrass them and all that stuff is kind of like rah rah, feel good, she's embarrassed, but nothing's going to change after that. And that's where I step in and I blame the Democrats because they always say Democrats are not in control, they don't have power, what are they going to do type of stuff. And it's just like, do what Republicans do. Sit down in the middle of the store and have a fit. They held
Yeah.
up a Supreme Court seat for over a freaking year and they were not in control. They were not in power. And it's just kind of like right now, you have Congress that's getting ready, or Donald Trump is getting ready to come to y'all and beg y'all for money for a war.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just say, you know what, release those Epstein files and we'll give you your money. Do this, we'll give you your money. Pull back ICE, we'll give you your money. We not playing with y'all. Y'all, you know what I mean? Like y'all don't have the numbers to do what you're trying to do. So I'm gonna get something out of this situation. Release those files and then we could talk. Do this and then we can talk. Like they just don't have it in them to do that. So I don't even like these hearings. To me, it's just kind of like I start to see it as the left, they're like their videos for social media, they get their screenshots, they get their memes, they get their talking points, and then over here you have the right, same thing, videos, screenshots, talking points. They saying with their spin on social media, we're saying our spin on social media, nothing changes. Nothing
Right.
changes at all. And I think that the Democrats kind of have to, kind of throw a fit a little bit. Make them change. Make them answer questions. They could easily tell Trump, you want this money for this, down the third? You need to tell Pam Bondi if she's going to sit in front of here, she needs to answer every single question. And if she don't, you don't get shit. She don't get
Well,
shit.
the
No, we'll shut
well,
the gun down. Ain't nobody benefiting from it, no way. You can sit here and say that we don't support the troops. We don't want to send money to the troops. You can sit there and say that. How about you don't go to dignified transfers? How about you sitting over here talking about curtains instead of honoring them? How about you saying losers and suckers? Say whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like I don't understand why Democrats don't do that. So when it comes to these hearings, I just kind of see they're pointless at this point. Don't make
well,
sense to me.
I think the Democrats could take some advice from Pete Hegseth. Now, what Pete Hegseth was stupid, but I think the Democrats should take note of this. Um, Pete Hegseth, when he was talking about this war, he said, we're not doing any of those stupid rules of engagement, which means I'm going to commit crimes. But
Yeah.
maybe the Democrats need to stop playing with rules of engagement from the 90s and early 2000s and get in the fight that we fucking got right now. And that means fight dirty, fight hard, and be vicious.
When is decorum when you're dealing with when you're dealing with the Republican Party, first of all? But when you dealing with a MAGA Republican Party, who cares about rules? Who cares about decorum? This is a brawl. We are in a bar. I'm not fighting you with my hand. I'm gonna hit you with this pool stick. I'm gonna pick up this bottle. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, you can't sit here and just square up and fight fair or fight one-on-one when you're dealing with people like that. And it's insane to me that we have leadership in the Democratic Party that's still trying to be professional and have decorum and play by rules that nobody else is playing by. It pisses me off. I think the hearings, for me personally, I think they're pointless because nothing is going to come out of these hearings. I just, I just don't believe that.
No, I
Everybody's going to get
agree. These hearings are just for performance and trying to embarrass somebody. It didn't work with Hillary Clinton. I knew it wouldn't. She embarrassed them, and they didn't get anything. I knew I knew that Bill Clinton would just do what Les Wexner did and say, "I don't know nothing about nothing. I wasn't there. I didn't know him then," and all that stuff. And they're not compelled to answer the question. But
yeah.
when did you saw the clips of Pam Bondi when she was in front of Congress? You saw how she behaved.
I, I saw a couple of them. Her attitude was just so smug. That look on
She,
her face,
she was
I just,
smug, and she attacked the other people. They made fun of her because she had a burn book on everybody. Everybody who said something, she had a book where she said, "Well, you did this and you did that." Um, did you recognize that behavior at all? Have you ever seen that
Pam
behavior
Bondi?
before? I know you have,
Pam
because
Bondi?
the way she behaved in that situation where she was combative and she was talking loud and she wasn't answering questions. I know you've experienced that before because you've told me about your past relationship with a narcissistic person.
Yeah.
And what happens
My
when
daughter.
they get cornered, they just talk louder, they make more
Hmm.
threats, they call you out, they try to turn it around. And that's exactly what you did. And that means nothing more than she's flat out lying about everything.
Yeah, the gaslighting. Well, I would say with her is the irrelevant gaslighting. Because I'm used to gaslighting. Well, I was in this situation, so I kind of had to do that. You did
Yeah.
this, so I had to respond this way. Her gaslighting is, what about the Epstein files? Did you see the stock market? Like, completely irrelevant
Yeah.
gaslighting. An
Yeah.
appropriate way to gaslight that situation would be, why didn't Biden release the Epstein files? Why didn't
Yeah.
Obama release it? Like, that is appropriate gaslighting. This heifer is talking about the stock market, which has nothing to do with nothing. You know what I mean? That part was just like insane to me that like she just really go sit there and talk about the stock market when nobody else in this room is talking or thinking about the stock market. But she came in there with her talking points to she knew that Trump would be watching it, and so she was performing in front of an audience of one. To me,
Right.
that's why the hearing was pointless. You know what I mean? Like, she said what she needed to say to who she needed to say it to, and she said it publicly, which is the best way to stroke his ego. Nothing is going to come out of that. I don't even think we
Well,
should be having those hearings because nothing happens.
I think this hearing with Pam Bondi is going to be a little different, though, because she's been put in a corner. This hearing is specifically about the Epstein files. They aren't going to talk about anything but the Epstein files. She's going to
Yeah.
be combative because she's not going to want to answer. She's involved in the biggest cover up in the history of this country. She knows Donald Trump is going to be watching. And she also knows Kristi Noem just got fired because she fucked up in a hearing. So
Yeah, but
now she's going to have extra pressure on her.
people forget that Bondi had Trump's back before this administration when she was down in Florida. She looked
Mm-hmm.
out for him. She looked out
Yeah.
for Epstein. Like there's no doubt in my mind that that's not the reason that he was putting her into that position. What I will say though, for me, being like nose to the ground with some of this stuff is people were saying that some of these Republicans, they will start to push back more. And the reason is because they wanted to make sure that, like for primaries, that they do it at a time where Donald Trump's endorsement wouldn't make a difference,
Right.
basically. So it's just kind of like, well, if we speak out against him too early, then he can just endorse the competitor or endorse somebody else just to spite and hurt our chances of winning. But if we wait long enough, it'll be too late for him to endorse somebody else. So trying to find that balance to where they can start to speak out against him. Now, how much of that I believe, I don't know, because they could have been put Donald Trump in his place. So, and I don't think they mad at the war either. I think they all looking at it like Scrooge McDuck. They ready to go swimming in their money.
Well, we know they're not against the war because they just had a vote in the House and the Senate for the
Mm-hmm.
War Powers Act to take that power away from Donald Trump, which he doesn't have in the first place. Why do we have to have a War Powers Act when the Constitution says he doesn't have the legal right to do that? But they had the War Powers Act vote in the House and the Senate, and every Republican voted, and some Democrats voted to let Donald Trump do whatever the fuck he wants. So,
You
okay,
know,
you're going to be left with a pile of rubble after it's all said and done, and we're going to be looking at you motherfuckers for allowing it to happen.
you know what that's like? Seriously, if you tell your child that your curfew is 10 o'clock, like your curfew is 10 o'clock, you need to have your butt in his house at 10 o'clock unless you somewhere in the hospital. And then at that point, you need to be home. But your curfew is 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
And then let's say your child comes home at midnight. And then you want to sit down and have a conversation about whether their curfew should be 10 o'clock or not. Like that's
Yeah.
what they are doing. The power of declaring war is in the hands of Congress. Donald Trump has declared war. And now, after the fact, they want to sit down and have a conversation about whether he can declare war or not. Not only that, but they're saying, well, yeah, he can go ahead and do it, which would be the equivalent of us sitting down with our child and saying, well, you know what? Yeah, you can come home at 12 o'clock now. It
Well,
makes absolute sense at all. But that's what
they're
they're
doing
doing. Democrats too.
they're doing the same thing with the shutdown. You know, DHS is
Mhm.
shut down now, and the Democrats have made some requirements of what they can and can't do. If you look at all those requirements, those are requirements that are guaranteed by the Constitution.
Yep.
And they're just telling them to abide by the Constitution, you know, due process and all this shit, Fourth Amendment. That's what the Democrats are asking for, and the Republicans refuse to vote for it. That that's what they do. They you know, it's kind of like evangelicals. We'll take the Bible, twist it any way we can to make it serve our agenda, and that's what the Republicans do with the Constitution.
Yeah, but Democrats are enablers. They go sit here
Yeah,
and write laws and legislations to tell Republicans our laws and legislation say that you have to abide by the Constitution. What the hell? You don't need to write a law to tell them to abide by the Constitution. It's a waste of time. And to be honest with you, it's a waste of paper. What the heck are you doing that for? No
yeah.
backbone. No backbone. No backbone. No backbone. These people are just, ah, I don't want to
Oh,
say the word, but they're pretty spineless, very
don't you
spineless.
don't you think what we've seen with the Republicans in control of the House and the Senate, um, that this country has been exposed for being a lot, and the government itself being a lot weaker than we ever imagined, because every time we turn around, Donald Trump or the Republicans exploit every rule and they just get away with it, and the Democrats just sit there with their thumbs up their ass doing nothing. And people say, well, we don't have the majority, we can't do anything. You could be screaming about it, you could be talking some shit about it, you could be doing this about it, but they refuse to do anything. I wanted to ask your opinion on something as we're getting toward the end here. Everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people are out there saying, "Oh, he's just going to cancel the midterms," which for my money is ridiculous because the states control the midterms. He might try to cheat. He might try to do this, but the old rule of thumb is that no matter what Donald Trump does, he fucks it up. So I'm not really worried about it, and I think that even if he does try to mess with the elections, if we just overwhelm him with votes.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was a close race, maybe he could fuck with it. But if it's like a 7 million vote difference, like with Biden and Trump, you can't really do much because they fucked around with the 2020 election, didn't do any good.
Yeah. I think with I think that if Donald Trump could cancel midterm elections, he would.
Hmm.
And I think that
Yeah, definitely.
if there was a plan in place to cancel the midterm elections, all this other crazy crap that they're doing, gerrymandering and all this, they wouldn't be doing all of that. They just be like, wait till they see what go down during this midterm election. You know what I don't think they would have all of this scrambling, nervous energy and worry and constant story change. Like we know that when Republicans are on message. You know what I mean? Like they are on message. Everybody is saying the same thing. It's an echo chamber. It's over and over and over. They can't even
Yeah,
stay on message because they're so scrambled. I think
yeah.
that Donald Trump's idea of canceling the midterm elections is through just brute force. I think that he is going to use every fear tactic that he can, every threat that he has to make people afraid to vote, make them not want to go vote. It's kind of like I talk to friends overseas about like, people needing to make a plan and vote. And they're like, the hell you need to make a plan for? Like, just go vote. And
Yeah.
it's just like, no, they really don't want us to vote. You have to make a plan to go vote. You need certain IDs. You need this. You need that. Republicans have said out of their own mouths, if everybody who was eligible to vote and we made it just easy for them to vote, like the right that they have, we would never be elected. And they know that. And they say it out loud. So I think it'll try to be brute force just to frighten people to stay at home and frighten them to not vote. And that's not going to work, I don't think.
Well, no, it's not going to work. And I'll give you an example. We had the primaries in Texas, right?
Yeah.
And there was obviously some messing around going on in Dallas County because they confused a lot of people as to where they could vote. I talked to Jace about it on the podcast some. But in spite of that, in Texas, more Democrats voted in Texas than Republicans. And that
Yeah.
doesn't usually happen. What did you think about that primary with Jasmine Crockett and James Tallarico? What did you think about that?
Well, I knew that Jasmine wasn't going to win. I would have loved for her to win, but just because me sitting in Nevada would think that Jasmine Crockett is an amazing representative, and I see her as a fighter, someone who says, "Oh, you're gonna take my district? Okay, I'm gonna go over here and fight."
Yeah,
Right? Versus I'm gonna find another way to fight for my people. That's Jasmine Crockett. Vote versus Republicans that's like, we'll just go ahead and retire. Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and bow out. This is a little too hot for me. So
yeah.
when you see somebody like that that's willing to fight, that's willing to stay in there and fight, that's the person that you want to go through.
Do you
However,
think do you think
this is
she lost? Do you think she lost because she's a black woman? I do.
yeah, definitely. She's just as religious as James Tallarico. She can quote a Bible verse and a scripture. She talks about her home church all the time. This is a woman who is very in tune with her faith and she knows what her purpose is. And she is living in her purpose. Um, but this is Texas that we're talking about. They're not supposed to follow the
Right.
lead of an assertive, educated black woman that's not gonna tolerate your crap.
Yeah.
That's just how they roll out there. James Tallarico is more of their speed. I think that he is easily digestible. Um, and another thing with James Tallarico that I don't think people who were like we were all disappointed when Jasmine lost, but I think most people expected it to, if they were being honest with themselves, is when you put someone in that seat, you want someone who can stay in that seat. I think if Jasmine would have won, it would have been like, let's just vote for her to get us through this cycle, and then we can go back to business as normal. I think
Yeah.
that James Taylor has the possibility to maintain that seat for as long as he wants. So I think that is the difference there. They kind of do the
Well,
same thing with Democrat presidents. Republicans come in here and mess everything up. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll have the Democrats come in here and clean it up. And as soon as everything is getting clean, they go right back to the same BS again. So I think James Tallarico can kind of like stop that cycle in Texas that if he turns it blue, he can keep it blue for a while and maybe affect other areas.
What's your gut reaction about James Tallarico? What's your vibe do you get off him?
I don't like the fact that he takes money from APAC, number one. Um, I could see little political games that he played that I don't think other people catches on, but that doesn't make me think any way towards him. That just lets me know that he is strategic. So, when Republicans was coming after him for being like a single man, like they would never go after um Lindsey Graham, who I don't know if you noticed, but in the gay community they call him Ladybug because he has
Yeah.
like a bunch of warts on his butt and stuff, and so they call him Ladybug. Anyway, anyway, so they were coming after him for being like a single male, and that's kind of odd and weird. And then the next thing you see on his social media page that he's following like these IG models and stuff like that. So he didn't make an announcement. He didn't say anything like open about it, but he made sure he's following certain people to keep the podcast bros off his butt, not give anybody any ammunition. So I do think that he can play politics. He's just more low key when he does it, which
Yeah.
allows him to fly under the radar. And that might be a good thing for him in Texas. And he's religious, and he's
I,
white,
ju-
and he's straight,
I
and he
just want
got
to
a
make
thing going on.
I just want to make an apology for anybody listening to the podcast who might be having breakfast, lunch, or dinner when you're listening to it. I apologize for Old Soul's characterization of Lindsay's posterior. That paints a weird
I didn't
picture.
call them ladybugs. His male lovers called them ladybugs. What do you want to call them? Oh, here come Lindsay and all the warts on his butt. Oh, call him ladybug.
Wow. Wow. Okay.
I did have one
Uh,
thing I wanted to say before we leave. So
yeah.
a lot of people they have forgotten that a lot of the cuts to Medicare and Medicaid, Republicans have saved that to 2027 because they wanted those to go into effect after the midterms because they didn't want to get blamed for it. But there are going to be some changes to Medicare and Medicaid, but specifically for seniors, and I'm just going to speak in general terms, there will be certain things that so right now and that's for anybody, whether you commercial or seniors, you can actually get a free physical every year. You can get a free mammogram, depending on your age, you can get a free DEXA scan. Those are free right now. In 2027, insurance companies may not make that or may not allow that to be free any longer.
Wow.
Also, some of the cheaper plans on Medicare that a lot of the seniors sign up for, they're going to have to do in order you're going to have to like qualify for the cheaper plan, and the way that you would qualify for that is something called like a chronic condition form. There may be some seniors who have already heard about that or seen that, and it's going to be a form that your doctor will have to fill out, and the form will have to say that you have a chronic condition. So whether it's like diabetes or maybe like a thyroid problem, any kind of gastro problem, stuff like that. So any kind of long-term ailment, you will have to have that form from your doctor's office, then be approved by your insurance. And at that point, that's when you're going to qualify for like that cheaper plan or that more affordable plan on Medicare. In addition to that, like if you're working and you have your insurance through your employer, some of the stuff that's free now, it's not going to be free. And in
Now,
addition to that, some of the places that right now that are not approved by states, I don't know how to say it. There's certain doctors' offices that don't live up to the standards to get funding for Medicare. Those standards are going to be lowered. And then if you have certain types of insurances, they'll send you to those less par doctors' offices and then save the ones who are up to par for people who have insurance through their employers, if that makes
now
sense.
when you're talking about Medicare changes and having to qualify and stuff like that, are you talking specifically about Medicare Advantage?
Yeah, it's going to be Medicare Advantage. I believe right now for Medicare Advantage, those chronic condition forms, I've been off work for a minute. Those chronic condition forms for people who are signing up like now, depending on your location, you may be seeing those already. I know on the West Coast we're starting to see those already. So in order like certain like plans that are cheaper, like if you can't afford certain plans or certain supplementals or whatever, you can't get those unless you qualify for them now. Or if it's not happening now, if you're already enrolled, when your enrollment period comes up in 2027, you're going to start seeing those forms more and more. So I think the best thing to do is like talk to your doctors about it and be prepared for that form because they will give them 30 days for that form and that's it. And that seems like enough time for your doctor to do that, but some of these doctors' offices don't run smoothly like that. So you
Yeah.
may want to take the form to your doctor's appointment with you, have them fill it out, and make sure it gets sent that way versus dropping your form off and trusting that your doctor's office will do it because they should be telling you if they're not telling you right now. If that form isn't turned back in, your insurance is going to be canceled or you'll automatically move to a different plan that may not be affordable for you.
Well, when I'm on Medicare, and when I talk to people who are going to get on Medicare, I tell
Hmm.
them do not get Medicare Advantage, because
Yeah,
with Medicare Advantage, you're basically getting it from a commercial company. I said, if I'm going to get Medicare, I'm going to get it from the Medicare, governmental Medicare, even if it's
yeah,
more expensive. I'm going to do it that way because I know there's been a lot of problems with Medicare Advantage. There are some
yeah,
people that it's going away, or like you say, it's only covering certain things. And when you get to the point when you're 65 and you can get Medicare,
yeah.
you don't want to be worried about that shit, especially if you do have some issues.
You don't. Even with people who have insurance through their employees, this is going to really, really, really affect seniors that's already struggling. But it will affect people with private insurance as well, because a lot of people who are struggling right now, women, just think about that. If a woman needs to go get a mammogram done, but now all of a sudden, for a mammogram, not only do you need a referral, but you got to pay a copay because people get their annual mammograms. It's free once a year. Like the whole country is used, or most women in this country, they get their mammograms free every year. You just get your mammogram done. But when they start requiring a referral for that, requiring a copay for that, requiring a copay for an annual physical, a lot of people are just going to say that's extra. Like, do I really need a mammogram or can I skip it this year? Do I really
Yeah.
need a physical or can I skip it this year? And that, or do I really need a pap smear? And then they'll skip it for that year. Um, I don't think people paid attention that much, but there's some red states that have no OBGYNs right now. That there's just none. In addition to having to travel, there's no OBGYNs. Dr. Oz, when they asked him about that, he said something about, oh, well, we're putting robots in those spots. We're doing like AI robots in those spots. So if you're a woman and you are pregnant and there's no OBGYN in your area, a lot of these women are having their babies delivered through physician's assistants, nurses. If they're lucky, they can get an APRN, which is an advanced nurse practitioner to deliver their baby. There's no doctors to do it. I don't know when these AI robots are supposed to be put in these places that Dr. Oz was talking about, but that's what
Oh,
he said when he was asked about OBGYNs not being available in rural America. AI robots. That's what he said. He ain't getting, I have no idea what's going on with women in rural America because they are not flipping out. Let somebody come tell me as a woman that I have to go to an AI robot. The hell is you talking about? Who
yeah.
gonna deliver these babies? You know what I mean? It's crazy to me that he was able to say that and get away with it. It's crazy to me that these women are not out there in the streets. We would have been out there before the election with these women in rural America, like, oh hell no, they not supposed to put robots in y'all clinics. Come on, let's go. But after the election, we just kind of looking at women in rural America being like, oh, I guess you want to have your baby with a robot. But a lot of that stuff is changing in 2027, and I think people need to be prepared for it. If you can, at the bare minimum for women, if you can't afford the mammogram and you you should at least do what you can to get the copay for your PAPs every year because the
Yeah.
sooner they get to ovarian cancer, the better. So I would recommend making sure every year that you get your PAP. If you can't get anything else done, at least get that done.
Let me, oh, I got one more thing to ask you because you know about this stuff. We went through this whole thing with the ACA subsidies. They didn't vote to keep the ACA subsidies. We've
Mhm.
heard anywhere from 15 to 24 million people without health care or really expensive health care. As somebody who
Yeah,
works in the business, have you seen blowback from that? Have you seen some how it's affecting things?
kind of, sort of, but for the most part, right now, people are adjusting, and that's just because the worst of it hasn't hit yet. That
Right.
law, the big, beautiful, but ugly bill, a lot of that doesn't take effect until 2027. So I think right now people are like, oh, okay, we got through the worst of it, and they have still been able to get the mammograms, their physicals and stuff, their labs every year, they can get that done. Um, they haven't really felt the brunt of it that, or I don't even think they're prepared for 2027. Um, Sometimes I'm like, dang, our seniors are prepared. Like in my community, we know what to do, but there's other people that just don't have anybody who has information to prepare them for that. So hopefully, uh, they will at least talk to their doctors, especially the seniors, about the cuts that's coming in 2027 and try to prepare for that as
Yeah.
best as they can. It's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough.
Well, we're going to wrap things up for the Rational Boomer podcast. I don't know what your future holds. Are you going to be traveling more? Are you going to be on the streets more? What are you going to be doing?
Yeah, I want to actually go home for a while. I was gone. I missed my birthday. My birthday was January 28th, and since I've been here with Debbie, we had like a little mini birthday party and a little cake with the kids and stuff. I didn't tell the audience, but she did adopt a son. And I have to tell you, because I've been encouraging people to make sure we call it baby jail in Nevada, but it's kind of like if you remove a child from an abusive home and there's no foster family to take them to, they have to put them in like child haven. It's like a facility for kids that haven't been able to be placed yet, right? It's so sad
Mm.
because you have little cribs lined up with just babies in it and stuff. So I've been encouraging people like, hey, make sure that you volunteer. You can check the kids out. You can go to court with them, all that stuff, right? I was encouraging Debbie to do that. And that's what she was doing. And my family is like, that's right, Debbie. Show her. Show her that you can be around children and you don't have to bring them all home. Show them. He just adopted a 3 year old.
Yeah.
And so I'm here. I got a new godson and I've been here with her doing that. So I'm just going to be here for this week and then I'm going to go home and spend some time with my family. Looking forward to it.
About fucking time. About fucking time. Well, now that you're kind of settled down and going back home, let's not make the distance between the times you show up here so long. Because I'm tired of people saying, how's old soul doing? I go, don't know.
I
I
don't
wish
even
she'd
know
tell me.
if people asking about me.
Yeah, they're asking about you. They're asking. I hear from your brother every so often, and that's helpful. And I
Yeah.
let people know that I heard from your brother, and she's fine. Can't talk about it because she's undercover or some shit. Um,
Call it undercover.
but
I was a babysitter.
yeah. Well, thank you, old soul. I appreciate you taking the time to talk. I know people are excited to have you back, and the sooner we can have you back, the better.
I'll be in the comment section tomorrow.
All right, that sounds good. Those of you listening, thank you for taking the time. Hope you have a great day, and we will talk to you tomorrow.